Canadians are en masse changing their summer vacation plans to not come to the United States. What will be the effect of the tariff on Canada? I don't know, for the inflation that we had during the Biden presidency. Mr. Trump really want to do that now? Of Mr. Trump doesn't yet take into account that there's another competitor who can buy if you don't, who can sell if you don't. You're not what you were.
America is experiencing something we haven't seen in over a century, the decline of an empire. Trump isn't the cause of this collapse. He's the desperate symptom of a country that refuses to face reality. What we're witnessing right now will reshape America for generations, and most people have no idea what's actually happening.
The United States is a rogue country. The United States is the country to which the rest of the world looks, what the hell is going on there?
Every empire in history has fallen, every single one. Yet somehow Americans believe we're the magical exception to this universal rule. Nobody prepared us for this possibility. Not Trump, not Biden, not Harris. The word declining empire never appeared in our recent elections because admitting reality would shatter the illusion we've built around American exceptionalism.
Donald Trump says, I'm going to take back the Panama Canal. I'm going to take Greenland away from Denmark. I'm going to take Canada away from the Canadian. What?
What makes Trump's behavior particularly revealing is the timing. In a world where most nations are emerging from centuries of colonialism with deep anti-imperial sentiment, why would any leader suddenly advocate for territorial expansion? Trump talks about taking the Panama Canal, grabbing Greenland from Denmark, making Canada the 51st state. This isn't strength, it's panic.
You've got a working class here that is very shocked.
When your country is falling apart, one traditional response is to launch external crusades. Hitler followed this exact playbook when Germany was crumbling internally. Now, I want to be crystal clear. Trump is not Hitler, but the pressures creating desperate behavior, those parallels are impossible to ignore.
No one prepared them that there is an empire, that the empire is going to decline. Why? Because every empire in the world has.
The American working class has been systematically betrayed over the past 40 years. We've witnessed the greatest wealth redistribution in modern history, from the bottom and middle straight to the top. The middle class isn't just struggling, it's disappearing entirely.
When your country is falling apart, one of the ways you hold it together is to go on a crusade. Hitler attacks everybody.
Think about what ordinary Americans have endured recently: a devastating pandemic, crushing inflation, and watching their country lose wars in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, and now Ukraine. The working class is angry, confused, and looking for someone to blame. Sound familiar? This is exactly the recipe that allowed extremist movements to gain power throughout history.
You're heading into the greatest crisis the Democratic Party has had in a long time. The progressive wing of that party, it cannot continue much longer the way it has.
Meanwhile, our supposed opposition party, the Democrats, has essentially vanished. Biden disappeared into thin air after the election. Kamala Harris went with him. The progressive wing is fracturing, and more people contact me daily about forming third parties than I've ever experienced. The traditional political system is crumbling before our eyes.
So when the president says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to tariff, it's going to have this result, you're talking to a moron. Somebody who's talking.
Trump's economic policies aren't strategic. They're pure Hail Mary passes. Tariffs become his primary weapon, but here's what most people don't understand about tariffs. Their effects depend entirely on context, and we have no idea what that context will produce.
That tariff has been in effect for half a century.
Take Trump's proposed 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, our two largest trading partners. Your morning coffee, which comes from Mexico, will suddenly cost 25% more. The sugar you put in it, also imported. That avocado toast millennials supposedly love? Prepare for $20 morning meals when those avocados can't cross the border affordably.
Consequences of the tariff could be a serious boost to inflation here. Because remember, a tariff means stuff coming into the country costs more.
But here's the cruel irony. Trump won partly because voters blame Democrats for inflation. Now he's about to trigger the worst inflationary shock in decades through his own policies. The working class that supported him will bear the brunt of these increases.
Mr. Trump often says that the tariff is paid by the other country. This is wrong. It's not paid by the other country. It's paid by Americans.
Remember, tariffs aren't paid by foreign countries. That's economic nonsense. They're taxes paid by American consumers. When that bag of coffee jumps from $100 to $125 because of tariffs, Starbucks passes that cost directly to you.
We are deporting into Mexico more than any other country millions of undocumenteds that are being collected by ICE and sent over the border into Mexico. They were taking a portion of their weekly salary and sending it back to Mexico for their grandma and their grandpa and their children.
Mexico presents a perfect case study in unintended consequences. We're simultaneously deporting millions of people into Mexico while cutting off their economic lifeline through tariffs. Those deportees were sending money back to their families, roughly 18% of Mexico's entire GDP. We're eliminating both their jobs and their remittances while making their exports unaffordable.
A huge cash inflow to the Mexican economy. Gone. You return the workers for whom there's no work, and you cut off the source of income.
What happens to a country when you destroy their economy? They find new partners. Mexico and Canada will simply redirect their lumber, electricity, and resources to China, our primary competitor. We're literally pushing our neighbors into the arms of our rivals. If you want to understand how empires actually collapse, you need to see the bigger picture. That's why channels like this matter. We connect the dots that mainstream media ignores. The analysis continues, but first subscribe to our channel to stay updated.
A whole middle class develops in Germany around the success of their capitalism.
The parallels with 1930s Germany are striking, not in personalities, but in circumstances. After World War I, Germany faced crushing reparations, devastating inflation, and economic collapse. The middle class lost everything they'd saved over decades. Sound familiar?
It's called the People's Republic of China. Having a real competitor for the first time means everybody has options they never had before.
America's middle class has been hollowed out over 40 years of wealth redistribution upward. We've suffered military defeats, economic shocks, and now face our first real economic competitor in over a century. China. The psychological impact of no longer being the unquestioned global hegemon is profound. Germany's business community ultimately chose Hitler because they feared the alternative. A working class turning towards socialism. Today's American elite face similar pressures, though our left is nowhere near as organized as Germany's was.
We have moved wealth from the bottom and the middle in this country to the top. That's why even our candidates talk about the middle class is dying, the middle class is going. Yeah, that's right.
Trump's appointment of Vice President Vance to remove anti-American improper ideology from the Smithsonian should terrify anyone who remembers McCarthyism. We're seeing the same playbook. Define opposition as un-American and systematically eliminate it, foreign students are being expelled for writing articles about Gaza. Universities are cooperating by handing over names to authorities. These aren't isolated incidents. They're the building blocks of authoritarianism.
He is giving money, I believe $100, to every voter who signs a petition that he has, and he has circulating.
The efficiency shroud with Musk reveals the administration's fundamental dishonesty. The federal government employs the same number of civilian workers today as it did in the 1960s, despite serving 150 million more people. That's actually remarkable efficiency by any economic measure. But efficiency was never the point. The image of the world's richest man brandishing a chainsaw to eliminate working-class jobs perfectly captures this administration's priorities. It's political theater designed to distract from systemic failures. The most dangerous aspect of America's current trajectory is our increasing isolation. The policy of containing Russia has backfired spectacularly. We're now the ones being contained by expanding alliances between China, Russia, India, and dozens of other nations.
It's we who are becoming isolated. We who are becoming contained. Not by a ring of bases, although that may come at this point, but by a ring of alliances and coalitions for which the United States is the enemy.
Recent UN votes show America increasingly alone, supported only by Israel and a handful of small allies. The coalition of the willing has become a joke, mostly American troops with token contributions from a few European allies. When we turn on our closest neighbors, calling Canada's Prime Minister a governor and threatening to seize territories, we signal to the world that American leadership has become fundamentally unstable. This isn't strength. It's the desperate thrashing of a drowning swimmer who pulls down anyone trying to help.
That's a serious competitor. The two together, now you're talking. And they understand it. And so do the folks here.
The mother of all sanctions against Russia perfectly illustrates how declining empires make catastrophic strategic mistakes. We assumed Russia would collapse without European energy markets, but we forgot about China and the BRICS alliance. Russia simply redirected its oil and gas to India and China. Much of it still reaches Europe through intermediaries, but now Russia has diversified away from Western dependence. We didn't cripple Russia. We accelerated the creation of an alternative global economy that excludes us. This is what happens when you don't intellectually grasp changing global dynamics. You design strategies for a world that no longer exists, then act shocked when they backfire.
So I would argue the United States is becoming more and more isolated.
Here's a number that should keep every American strategist awake at night. The BRICS alliance represents 55% of the world's population. The United States, 4.5%. We're trying to economically dominate a world where we represent less than 1 in 20 people. This isn't sustainable, and deep down everyone knows it. The question isn't whether American global dominance will end, it's whether that transition will be managed intelligently, or whether we'll thrash our way into irrelevance while damaging ourselves and everyone around us.
They're making incredible statements. The world has changed. Our friendship is over. Our relationship... Okay, yes, it's just words at this point, but we've not seen those words.
Every empire has faced this moment. Some managed their decline gracefully, maintaining prosperity and influence in new forms. Others clung desperately to past glory and collapsed traumatically. Britain transitioned from global hegemon to important regional power without destroying itself. The Soviet Union chose a different path and paid the price. Spain's empire dissolved gradually over centuries. Rome fought its decline until the very end.
Put them in a uniform, the way that Hitler did, and have them terrorize anybody who has a meeting.
We still have choices, but those choices require acknowledging reality. As long as our leadership remains committed to denial, as long as we refuse to discuss what post-imperial America might look like, we're choosing the path of trauma over the path of managed transition. The symptoms are everywhere for those willing to see them. Child labor returning to Florida, mass deportations creating humanitarian disasters, territorial threats against allies, trade wars that hurt us more than our targets, political persecution disguised as patriotism.
The United States is alone. It's even turned on its neighbors.
These aren't signs of strength, they're signs of an empire eating itself from within. The tragedy is that none of this is necessary. We could choose differently. We could adapt to a multipolar world. We could build prosperity without global dominance. But that would require conversations our political system refuses to have. It would require admitting that American exceptionalism was always temporary, that our post-World War II dominance was historically unusual, not historically normal.
Canada is an ally, has always been. Mexico, basically also. Subordinate allies. Why would you turn on them?
Until we're ready for that conversation, we'll continue making the kinds of desperate mistakes that turn manageable transitions into generational catastrophes. The choice is still ours, but not for much longer. The decline of the American empire isn't a possibility. It's happening right now. The only question is whether we'll learn from history or repeat its worst chapters. Based on current evidence, I'm not optimistic. But understanding these forces gives us a chance to prepare for what's coming. That's why this analysis matters. That's why we need to keep connecting these dots, especially when it's uncomfortable to do so. The empire is ending. How it ends is still up to us. Subscribe to our channel to stay updated with the world's politics in most chaotic way.